Hello, my name is Elisa Minoff. I work on family economic security policy at the Center for the Study of Social Policy. And I'm here today with Kali Daughtery to talk about a struggle that so many expecting parents confront as they plan to welcome a new baby home. And that struggle is really, how are they going to pay the bills during this critical first few months when they're caring for their baby and bonding with their baby? This is a struggle that parents face in the United States, but generally don't face in other wealthy nations. The US doesn't have a national policy of paid family leave. Every other wealthy country does. The United States is only one of 7 countries around the world that doesn't have a policy of paid maternity leave. The other countries are Papua New Guinea and a handful of islands in the Pacific. So we are a real outlier, and as a result, families are struggling. Kali, thanks so much for joining me today to talk about this critical issue. It's really great to see you.
Yeah, good morning, Lisa. So nice to see you, and thanks for having me.
Of course. So you're a parent, and you also work with families and advocate on behalf of families. And you've said you got into this work because of your own experiences. Can you tell us a little bit about your family and those experiences?
Yeah, absolutely. So my son Sebastian is now 12 years old, and when I had him, I was really confused. I didn't know how to sign up for any assistance, like how do you get food stamps, what is daycare assistance, any of that stuff. Like there's not a handbook for that. You just kind of get thrown and have to figure it out. And in my experience in that, I've had some really great workers and some not so great ones. And just working with people in that way, I decided that that's something that I wanted to do myself. I wanted to be someone to help people when they're in that time of need and be able to support them and be someone kind that can understand exactly what they're going through, and help with that. That's also led me to the advocacy work that I do. I was introduced to it 9 years ago now, so I've been doing it for a while. I got involved really when my son was younger, just trying to work out things because he's on the autism spectrum and there was a lot of difficulties trying to get him into services and trying to get the things that he needed. So that's led me to a variety of different things that I advocate on behalf of, things that affect my family personally and as well as families that I work with.
And it's been so great to be able to work with you over the last few years, Callie, around a range of family issues. So you live in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Wisconsin is one of 37 states that doesn't have a state policy of paid family leave. Um, how did you make things work 12 years ago when you brought Sebastian home?
So when I had Sebastian, I was a full-time waitress, still there now, very part-time. And I was really lucky. My coworkers at the time, like, 'cause, in the service industry, you don't have paid time off, you don't get sick leave, you just work or you don't get paid. And my boss told me, he's like, I'm really sorry, but I'm gonna have to fill your position and we'll see what's available when you come back. And my coworkers are like, no, you're not gonna do that. We're all gonna work extra shifts for the 6 weeks until you're able to return. Which was I was so grateful for and so lucky to have them support me in that way. So that's how I was able to take maternity leave the first time was I stacked up my tips as much as possible, picked up shifts and just saved to pay my bills during that time that I was off.
Wow. And I mean, what amazing coworkers to do that for you. But also, we shouldn't have to rely on the generosity of our coworkers just to take time off after you have a baby.
Shouldn't have to rely on people burning themselves out and working 6 or 7 days a week for me so that I could be home with my son. So I'm
Mm,
grateful that they did, but it's not ideal for anyone involved.
wow. So now, fast forward 12 years, and you're expecting a daughter. How are you doing?
Oh, overwhelmed. It's really exciting and really scary. Like nothing's changed in over a decade since I've had my son. Um, Now that I'm getting ready to have my daughter next month, I'm just looking at time off of work and there's no benefits. There's nothing available through my job, even though now I'm further in my career. I'm in a position where I thought that I would have those types of benefits and it's just not available to me.
And what sort of benefits do you, or are you able to take time off when your daughter comes at all?
Yeah, so when I accepted the position, it was a scary time because I was newly pregnant and not something you really want to bring up in a job interview. Um, so I didn't. But then when I was reviewing the benefits before accepting, that outlined, 12 weeks of paid time off through the short-term disability that's offered through the company. So I was like, oh, that's perfect. I'll really be able to spend some time with her and figure out daycare and really like get a routine before having to rush back like I did last time. But then as it got closer and I was into the HR department and telling them, I'm ready to fill out the paperwork to just be prepared, they let me know that actually, because I haven't been here for a year, I do not qualify for those 12 weeks. And those 12 weeks are actually only guaranteed if the doctor deems it medically necessary. So I get 6 weeks off where the company doesn't pay me anything. I get 60% of my pay through short-term disability, but out of that, I have to pay my entire insurance premium. So I'm going to be bringing home a fraction of my pay during that time.
Wow. I'm curious, like how's that shift of sort of starting thinking you'd be able to take 12 weeks off and now being in the position where you can only take 6 weeks off and only have a fraction of your pay to support your family. Like, how's that shift how you're thinking about your time with your daughter and what you'll be able to do after once she's born?
It's just honestly been really stressful. Like I left my last position because I also didn't have any maternity leave. And I found out about her when I was there and I saw this and I was like, oh, that's perfect. It'll really give me some time to bond with her. And, 6 weeks, you're barely feeling like yourself. You're not sleeping through the night. You're still physically exhausted and trying to get in a routine.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so difficult when I was much younger, 12 years ago. And now doing it again, I'm just really anxious. I'm worried because I haven't really planned out daycare because this all just happened. There's wait lists, it's expensive. And luckily, because of my experience before with Sebastian, I've been saving money to be out from maternity leave. So I have exactly enough to make it through my 6 weeks, and then I have to come back. Like I can't afford to be out any longer than that. And it's just really stressful because it's so much different from what was presented
Mm-hmm.
to what's actually happening.
Yeah. And I mean, you talked about childcare and looking for childcare and the wait list. Uh, are you expecting to be able to get her into childcare at 6 weeks, or what's the sort of do you have a backup plan? How's it looking?
My backup plan is a spattering of a variety of family members and friends, and myself working remote 2 days and seeing if her dad can work remote a day a week, and then just kind of splitting it up between a couple people that we know until we can get her in somewhere.
If you had 12 weeks or more of paid leave, sort of how do you what sort of impact do you think that would have for you and your family?
I think it would just give us a time to bond with each other first and foremost. And it's not only the transition for us bringing her home, it's also the transition for us as a family. Like, for me and my partner, for my son becoming a brother, like it's all new for everybody, and just really allowing us to get a routine and to be able to spend time together and to feel comfortable. It's so scary to have such a small baby out of your care and then to have to put them in daycare with people that you don't know and you hope that everything's okay. Um, it's just really challenging, and I think it's just going to be really stressful and anxiety producing having to be in that situation. And if we were able to get her to 3 months old without having to be in that spot, like I would feel more confident. She's got her vaccine, she's got, a little bit more control of her motor skills and things like that. It would just be a lot easier for me to feel confident leaving her somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean that's such an important point. At 6 weeks, kids don't even have any of their vaccines that they get. Most of them get them at 2 months. So
Exactly.
they're not protected against RSV and like the other viruses going around that they might be exposed to when they go to childcare.
Exactly. And it's, I have to choose between her well-being or being able to pay for a place for her to live. And it's just such a ridiculous choice to have to make.
So you live in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Wisconsin does not have a policy of paid family leave. Your neighbor, Minnesota, just passed a policy last year that will be implemented in 2026. Right now, there are 14 states, including the District of Columbia, counting DC as a state, that have state paid leave policies. But what you're kind of illustrating is what happens when you fall through those cracks and you live in a state that doesn't have paid leave. And it really kind of raises the urgency of passing a national policy of paid leave. If you were talking to policymakers in Washington, what would you like them to know as they weigh whether to pass paid family leave and think through the decisions around what that policy should look like?
I think it should be universal across the board, no matter what role you're working in, or if you're not working, your partner should be able to take off some time as well to be with the baby. I thought being further in my career that I would have these things at work, but it shouldn't have to be that way. I should have had that experience without the, compassion of my coworkers being a full-time server. I was just reading a recent study and it said that, in Hong Kong, they added an additional 2 weeks. So now they get 14 weeks of paid maternal leave, and depression rates have dropped 22% for new moms. And it's just so much time that you're never going to get that time back. You're never going to have that time to bond with your child in that way and to be able to make them feel comfortable as they're adapting to everything that's new in their lives. And if we would allow that, I think it would lead to much healthier outcomes for all members of the family. And it would really buy in a lot of, more buy-in to the company. If I had a company that was really supportive and was like, you know what, we understand and we want to support you outside of just being an employee, I'd be really excited to come back to work and feel ready to go. But I don't have that. And I've never had that in the job as in my professional field. And it should be offered for everyone.
And that's such an important point you make too about it should be available to people who are working or who might not be working for a period of time. There are a lot of people who switch jobs. And that's why it's difficult when you tie these policies to a job, or like you were just saying, your current job, you need to be there a year to access that 12 weeks. But that doesn't help people who may have just started a new job. But you can't predict when you'll have a baby.
Exactly.
And this really is something that all parents need. Thank you so much for sharing this, Kali, and for all of the work that you're doing around policies to better support families. This here, that the one we've been talking about today, paid family leave, is such a critical one. And I think sharing your experiences is really important because policymakers need to know what the consequences are of their inaction. So thank you so much. And I really wish you the best of luck as you approach the birth of your daughter. I hope it's a wonderful time for your family.
Thank you so much. We're really looking forward to it and hoping the 6 weeks goes real slow.
We'll slow down the clock. We'll slow down the clock for you for those 6 weeks.
Thank
Do
you.
a lot of fallbacks.
Exactly. Yes. Hopefully it'll fall right.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Kali. Have a great day.
Thanks, Elisa. Take care.